Right. Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you all for coming. We're super excited to be kicking off this exciting new partnership with the Cougar Conservancy. So we're also grateful that you could make it tonight. I know there's a little bit of rain, at least here in Santa Barbara, Ventura County. So again, we appreciate it. Advantage of webinars, weather is not a factor. My name is Carlo Calderon, and I am the wildlife program coordinator here at Los Padres ForestWatch. Let me begin with our and there we go. Okay, Karina, can you see my screen, the presentation?
I can't see your screen yet. Looks like it's loading now.
There we go.
Perfect.
All right, so okay, there we go. I'm Carlo Calderon. I'm the Wildlife Program Coordinator here at Los Padres ForestWatch. A little bit about Los Padres ForestWatch. We are a nonprofit organization based out of the Central Coast. Our mission statement is to protect wildlife, wilderness, water, and sustainable access throughout our public lands, mainly those being Los Padres National Forest and the Carrizo Plain National Monument. And we achieve all of those things through education, advocacy, and when necessary, we will pursue legal action for the benefit of our communities, climate, and future generations. This webinar tonight is part of our Room to Roam program. It's a more recent program here at Los Padres Forest Watch. The whole goal of the program is to protect and restore critical wildlife corridors, and we achieve that through educating the public on wildlife conflicts, similar to what we'll be learning tonight about coexisting with cougars. We also map wildlife movement and vehicle collision, so I'll touch a little bit more on that after the presentation. We restore and protect habitat for the movement of these creatures, and we also engage with policymakers on being able to pass policies that keep wildlife in mind. And with that being said, I'll pass it over to Karina so that she could present about some of the amazing work her organization is doing.
Awesome. Thank you, Carlo, and good evening, everybody. Let me go ahead and just take a moment to share my screen. How are we doing, Carlo? Can you see it?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Well, yes, thank you, Carlo, again, and thank you to the Los Padres Forest Watch for having me and for all of you attending this evening. I hear you guys are getting a lot of rain out there and it is dinner time. So we are going to cover a lot tonight. So like Carlo said, get comfortable, but don't forget to put your questions into the Q&A function so that we can answer those at the end. And let me just move this Zoom panel and we're ready to go. All right.
My husband and his friend were camping, and my husband heard a cougar. Just got a photo of my neighbor who saw this morning a mountain lion with no collar roaming the neighborhood, and I don't know where it is now, but it's just a concern. I don't know what it was, but it was a very large cat in the driveway following me. I got one quick flashlight of it, and it was big. Get out for mountain lions at night for my livestock, and everyone in our neighborhood is sick of it. Can somebody come relocate some of these or do something about it? And if any one of those things comes near any of my animals, I'm going to kill it.
So the overlap between our urban environments and natural habitats creates challenges for both people and for wildlife in Southern California and, of course, along the Central Coast and throughout the world. These are some of the calls that we triage every single day as part of our work at the Cougar Conservancy. Our work to reduce human-wildlife conflict would not be possible without the support of our amazing partners, and we're grateful for the generous support of several anonymous trusts and foundations whose contributions make our work this year possible, along with the City of Agora Hills and the LA Supervisual District 3, and of course, our community members. So, in trying to capture broadly the essence of what makes a situation a human wildlife conflict, the IUCN Human Wildlife Conflict and Coexistence Specialist Group, they define human wildlife conflict as, quote, the struggles that emerge when the presence or behavior of wildlife poses actual or perceived direct, reoccurring threats to human interests or needs, leading to ultimately disagreements between groups of people and negative impacts on people and or wildlife. We see actual and perceived conflicts in the news, and we hear about them from friends and neighbors. Here in Southern California and along the Central Coast, residents and recreationists share the landscape with cougars, black bears, coyotes, bobcats, and cougars are the only large carnivore in many areas in Southern California and are the main predator on the area's dominant herbivore, the mule deer. Many areas also have black bears, which are considered a large carnivore based on size, but black bears are omnivorous and are not regular predators on deer. As such, cougars are an apex predator and often the only apex predator in their Southern California and Central Coast ranges. In other words, they are kind of at the top of that food web and they have no natural predators. Apex predators can have, a lot of different effects on the species that they prey on, including prey behavior, which can in turn affect and structure other aspects of the ecosystem. For example, kills made by predators attract a diverse crowd of scavengers, including mammals and birds and insects. And we don't fully understand all the different ways that cougars may affect deer, again, their main prey species, and other small carnivores like bobcats and coyotes, raccoons, and other scavenger communities. But we do know that since they are the only apex predator in many parts of their range here in SoCal, losing them and whatever roles they may play is certainly not an experiment that we want to conduct. I'm going to just play this video for you here for a second. So this is Nikita, and I'm just going to silence her for a minute. But while our educational initiatives emphasize cougars, right, we're the Cougar Conservancy, we utilize them as sort of a flagship species, a species that represents a specific cause. To underscore the importance of coexistence between human and wildlife communities. Many of our conflict prevention methods that we're going to be covering today can be effectively applied to other local wildlife like black bears, coyotes, bobcats, and more. However, just be sure to consult with our team on specific strategies after this presentation if you're interested in learning more. And again, this is Nikita, and she was a female lion that used to live in the Verdugo Mountains in Southern California, and she's vocalizing, which is pretty cool to hear. So the Cougar Conservancy, who are we? We are a nonprofit organization that provides expert recommendations and direct support to residents and recreationists seeking to prevent or resolve conflicts that may arise in our communities and with cougars in the landscapes that we share together. Our mission is to reduce human-wildlife conflict, and we see our work as being complementary to the work of the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, which is the agency responsible for managing our state's wildlife. And as a nonprofit, we have just a lot of flexibility to be able to meet the needs of communities. So we see ourselves as a complementary resource to the ongoing work. But let's take a moment to talk about the current legal status of cougars in California. Cougars were classified as a specially protected mammal under Proposition 117 in 1990. And in 2019, select subpopulations of cougars were petitioned to be listed under the California Endangered Species Act, also known as CESA. And in 2020, they received those special protections. subpopulations. So what subpopulations are under consideration with CISA? So first, let's just take a look at this really colorful map here on the screen. So researchers have recently identified 10 genetically distinct subpopulations in the state of California, which you see represented on this graph in different colors. And the populations under the black line are the subpopulations that are currently a candidate species under the California Endangered Species Act. So depending on where you're tuning in from, everybody, do you see your subpopulation on the map? Maybe we have some folks from the Central Coast Central, and probably a lot of folks from the Central Coast South. However, there's a lot of different interconnected threats to cougars, and we'll cover some of them. These populations face a lot of challenges due to urbanization, lack of connectivity, with scientists predicting a severe risk of low genetic diversity despite limited comprehensive studies in the area, in the Central Coast Central area and in part of Central Coast South. This brings us to all the different interconnected threats that California cougars face. And although cougars in California are not hunted, some mountain lion subpopulations actually have lower survival rates than heavily hunted populations in other states. Here you're looking at a visualization of those interconnected threats, and we really could do a separate talk on each one of those, but we're just going to kind of highlight some themes here. Environmental toxins are a cause of mortality for California lions, and many of you are very aware of the rat poison issue. Stochastic or random events like wildfire can also impact mountain lions. Poaching is also a cause of mortality for California lions, although the numbers on that, of course, are not as available. And the greatest threats to cougars in Southern California is habitat fragmentation that's caused by urbanization. So what's happened is that development and roads have turned these kind of once well-connected areas into islands that cougars can rarely escape. And that makes them more likely to mate with close relatives, also known as inbreeding, attack and kill each other at abnormally high rates, and come into closer contact with people and domestic animals. So this is where some of the cougar populations in California may be headed without restoring connectivity in the Southern California region. So the allelic variation, or how diverse a population is so low in the Santa Anas and the Santa Monicas that it's close to what the Florida Panthers were before Texas Cougars were translocated to Florida for that genetic rescue effort. Of course, some of the defects may only be cosmetic, while others may actually impact the individual's ability to survive or reproduce successfully. Here are some of those manifestations of Florida Panther inbreeding, including holes in the heart, kinked tails, undescended testes, malformed sperm, cowlicks, and twisted spleens. Cougars in the Santa Anas have the lowest genetic diversity of any subpopulation in the state, and signs of inbreeding have been seen in both the Santa Monicas and the Santa Anas now. Vehicle strikes and fatalities also account for about 100 cougar deaths a year across the state. And lastly, for today's purposes, I'm going to really focus a lot of my talk more on depredation and on coexistence. So let's first just define what depredation is, since it's not a term that everyone is familiar with. So a depredation incident involving a cougar requires that a cougar is either immediately threatening to cause damage, is in the act of causing damage, or one that has already caused damage to private property, including livestock and pets. So let's look at some of the statistics. So prior to mountain lions becoming a candidate species under CISA, over the last 20 years, an average of about 200 depredation permits were issued for cougars per year, and an average of about 100 cougars have been legally killed on depredation permits per year across the state of California. And the vast majority of those permits issued for cougars occur in non-commercial settings. Which means that there's kind of a silver lining to that, because it means that changes in everyday husbandry practices and behaviors that could drastically reduce the number of cougars killed and the amount of pets and livestock that are lost as a result. So that video that you saw really represents that wild and urban interface where we're doing a lot of work throughout California and also just in general responding to community coexistence inquiries throughout the country. Cougars are opportunistic hunters, which means that they will take advantage of whatever opportunities arise to take down and consume prey. So this means that depredation can occur despite mountain lions having access to natural prey. So for example, an improperly housed, vulnerable, and inexperienced domestic animal can represent a really easy meal that can save a cougar a lot of time, energy, and perceived risk. Now, cougars don't prefer domestic animals necessarily, but they may prey on unprotected animals if given the opportunity. And so a cougar that preys on a domestic animal isn't, bloodthirsty or necessarily like exhibiting abnormal behavior, but it's acting naturally under circumstances that are obviously unfortunate for the domestic animals and the humans that are responsible for their well-being. This is Nikita again in the Verdugo Mountains, and you can see her walking behind homes where she, lived as part of her home range and her territory. A lot of folks have seen this video of a cougar easily scaling a wall in Agora Hills. I think it really perfectly demonstrates that one, many Californians are living with cougars, and two, fences are not enough or walls are not necessarily enough to exclude them. Now, cougars have the capability of jumping vertically 15 feet at a standstill and can easily scale walls like the one you see here in the video. The trail safety tips we'll cover today also will include some of the areas where cougars. We'll talk about trail safety and we'll talk about home safety because there's a lot of overlap. But that's a pretty cool video that went viral online and was submitted to us. So if you see a cougar on a trail or in a neighborhood, we do invite you to report that sighting. So let's first talk about the importance of reporting and define what a wildlife sighting is. So a wildlife sighting occurs when someone directly witnesses a wild animal or indirectly witnesses its presence using something like a trail camera or security camera. And so advancements in technology, things like Ring cameras on doorbells, doorbell cams, trail cameras, and security systems have allowed us to see wildlife that has always been there. On top of that, in a click of a button, we all have the ability to share information more rapidly than any other time on Earth. We've never been so connected. And so sightings are often posted to social media. And, no matter if we're working with a community in like a big mega city like Los Angeles to a small town in rural California, mountain lions utilize backyards and neighborhoods as they make their way through their territories. They're finding prey, they're raising young, they're mating, and our advanced monitoring systems, along with our technology in everyone's pocket, has allowed us to not only be more aware of wildlife that we share space with, but also talk about it and share those sightings pretty easily. So we see a direct sighting, someone saw that mountain lion through their window, and an indirect sighting of a mountain lion walking near homes at night. So how do you report a cougar sighting? You can report your cougar sightings to the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. And when reporting, you include information like the location, date, and time of your sighting, and any photos or videos that you may have. You can also report other wildlife sightings to CDFW. Again, they can't help with coexistence support if they don't get the reports. And posting on Facebook is not a report, you guys. So this is actually a really cool report that came into us. And this was actually a mating pair that were walking together. So some pretty cool behavior captured on that video. Sharing these reports is really important. Here's one reason. We had a report come in, and a horseback rider in 2022 in Ventura County discovered 2 cougar kittens at the edge of a large ranch property and contacted us, and we contacted the California Department of Fish and Wildlife and the National Park Service, and CDFW ended up responding, and they learned that the kittens had moved on and only their tracks kind of were left behind. And And so they set up some trail cameras to capture any further activity and make sure mom was going to come back for them. Turns out mom already came back for them. They're good to go. But again, these sightings are so important because if there is any management that needs to happen or any management action, your guys' reports allow that. So just want to talk a little bit about our various services before we jump into coexistence tips. But we have some services that we offer to members of the public at no cost in order to support y'all in coexisting with cougars, both if you're living in cougar country or you're recreating in areas where cougars roam. So you can call our conflict hotline where you can request coexistence assistance. You can report a sighting and get help with wildlife ID, ask questions. Is this a cougar or a bobcat or something else? We're here for you. We also have coexistence consults, cougar-proof enclosure consults, community presentations like this one, workshops, trainings, and we can always hop on Zoom to answer any questions that you may have on coexisting. Here's an example of some of our work in the Santa Monica Mountains. This was a resident who moved in. She wanted to have a big area for her dog to run around in and be outside, but she has cougars in her backyard, coyotes, you name it. And that's the after. So look at how happy that German Shepherd is before and after. So we help folks with stuff like that. We also have an assistance program that we offer to provide financial assistance to homeowners who may want to build protective pens. And so our information on that program is located on our website, and you can check that out. Our team also helps not just building brand new enclosures or helping people design those enclosures, but we also help with retrofitting existing structures so long as the final structure design meets our requirements. So here's an example of an open corral prior to construction and after. So that's pretty cool. He's even back to breeding his animals now. And that was a conflict case that we worked on in the Eastern Peninsula Range in SoCal. Here's another version of a outside enclosure that you guys can use. So go to our website and learn more about our programs. But I do want to cover very quickly what constitutes a cougar-proof enclosure, so you all walk away with some information on that. So the roof is one of the most important parts. The roof of an enclosure should be able to support a minimum weight of 200 pounds, you guys. Roof stability is very important. Remember that cougars can jump 15 feet vertically at a standstill, and they're avid climbers. So the roof of an enclosure is not off limits. This photo up at the top is a cougar in the Santa Anas whose name was Scar. He had gotten into an enclosure, which you see here in the video, because the roof wasn't secure. And so on cases such as this one, what happens is he was able to get in the enclosure and he couldn't get out. And so he had to be chemically immobilized to free him from the structure. So you want to be able to have, again, a minimum weight load of 200 pounds. Ensure that all gaps over 4 inches are closed off. So what I like to say is, y'all, cougars are liquid, just like our domestic house cats who can fit in that small Amazon box. Cougars are very similar. They have a very streamlined skull that allows them to fit into small spaces. So all gaps more than 4 inches need to be excluded. Also ensuring that the enclosure is properly secured. Your door is secured. A lot of animals inside enclosures, they have high kicking abilities, and we've seen animals kick their own door off of their enclosures. So we do suggest properly securing them with a welded chain and a quick link lock, which can easily be opened without keys, or combination locks. Only combination locks we don't recommend, especially in fire-prone zones. We don't want you guys to lose your keys in an emergency situation, an evacuation situation. So we love these quick links and that welded chain. You can download our free e-poster on enclosures, and you can also request a physical copy. Send me an email if you'd like a physical copy and you'd like to post it in your neighborhood or somewhere in your community. And feel free to reach out to me anytime if you want to hop on a call and do a consult with us on a project you want to work on. Another thing that we're asked about a lot with coexistence at home besides enclosures is, hey, what about dogs? So people often tell us, hey, I have a dog, or I have an Anatolian Shepherd. But all dogs are at risk of being taken by a cougar. Not just any dog can protect themselves or other animals from predators. So these are specially trained animals. So the short answer is not any dog can be a livestock guardian dog. They have to be specially trained. And so, if you want more information on that, please reach out to us. We have this really cool handout that our partners created, and we're happy to share more information on that with you. So, if a cougar can take down a full-grown elk or a wild horse, a large dog is definitely on the menu, especially if they're not properly trained. And we want to keep your animal safe. Some other things we can do at home to reduce risk are landscaping practices. So there's things that we can do to kind of increase our ability to coexist with coyotes, bears, cougars, you name it. Landscaping practices is one of those things. We suggest that you trim hedges above the ground. We found that communities in SoCal were having some issues with some local carnivores, and they successfully reduced conflicts with predators by trimming hedges 2 to 3 feet off the ground. And landscaping like that can help, obviously, the areas where cougars can kind of take refuge and make your backyard, ooh, this is comfy. And so we want to just try to eliminate those types of environments. You can keep hedges away from your house is another suggestion. This helps you by reducing the amount of cover used that cougars can use to hide and rest. It also helps deter their prey species from making your backyard their home, right? Mountain lions love to eat mule deer, they love coyotes, and they love raccoons. And of course, keeping hedges also helps with defensible space. We also recommend you reduce backyard clutter. So open areas without places for wildlife to hide are going to be naturally risky for them. And so decluttering can serve as a deterrent for cougars and their prey. We've done so many coexistence consults and on-site, big properties. You have cars, you have work projects, and when you put trail cameras, what's at night? It's rodents. Who eats rodents? Coyotes. Who eats coyotes? Mountain lions. So removing wildlife attractants. Look, guys, we're always going to have wild animals in our neighborhoods. And so the best thing for wildlife is for them to pass through and move on to natural habitat with little to no interaction between us, our pets, and our families. And so feeding wildlife like deer or small mammals, it can provide a false sense of available resources and can result in them sticking around, right? Which is going to potentially attract predators to your property. So you want to remove wildlife attractants. You want to secure trash and compost piles. I'm a huge gardener. I love my compost. But there's ways to kind of make it a little bit more, friendly so a wildlife can't get to it. So cougars, they're not going to raid your trash bin, right? Or these are not bears necessarily. But those compost piles are going to attract rodents and the predators that prey on them. So again, that activity may cause a mountain lion to investigate, and cleanliness can prevent that. Pet food and water, we do recommend, if it's possible, to not leave that outside unattended. Again, this is going to be an easy meal, and we just recommend that you consider feeding your pets while indoors. And if you can't bring that inside, we recommend that you make sure it's inaccessible to wildlife. And just a PSA, do not feed wildlife, guys. It's against the law, but also it's just going to increase your risk of potentially having negative encounters with local wildlife. And you also want to clean up pet droppings. Pet waste attracts and can spread disease to wildlife, and proper waste disposal is kind of essential to being a good neighbor to people, but also to wildlife. Some folks do tell us, oh, I let my dog, my dog droppings are back there. The mountain lion's not going to come. I haven't been picking up my dog poop. And actually that could become an attractant. And so just want to make sure that people also understand that that's not a solution for coexistence. You also want to remove wildlife attractants with regard to deer. So this is something that, is kind of a hot button issue. Some people don't want to get rid of their rose bushes or fence their roses, and that's fine. We're just giving you some tips. So if you're interested in learning more about how to exclude deer from your yard, or to get them to kind of not linger, you can get in touch with us and we can talk more about repellent landscaping or fencing that encourage deer to move on. We can't cover all of the coexistence stuff at home in one talk, but I really recommend you consider exploring the bearwise.org website for everything that you need to know about coexisting with our local black bears. They have incredible resources. And again, this is a whole talk in and of itself, but our bears, we need help coexisting with our bears, and this website is a great resource for you all. I want to switch over to talking about trail safety, and if hopefully I haven't put you all to sleep, so get those questions into the Q&A for me, and Carlo and I will make sure to get those at the end of the talk. But let's switch over to talking about trail safety. We're going to cover some best practices for what to do if you encounter a cougar and just general tips. These are also, of course, applicable for neighborhoods as well. So let's talk about cougar behavior. So cougars, like us, they want to avoid confrontation. They are generally cautious animals that try to avoid humans whenever possible. And audio recordings of human voices can even drive them to abandon their food cache. So let's play this video, which was the first study to experimentally link the fear of humans to feeding behavior in large carnivores. In this study, kill sites were identified by looking at collar data from tagged individuals, and then either a frog ribbit in the control or the human voices, the treatment, were played. So let's go ahead and take a listen to that.
This because the grand jury rendered a correct verdict.
All right, so more times than not, cougars turned tail when they heard human voices. So there is enough individual variation between cougars, though, that some may choose to avoid us, but not necessarily the areas that we recreate in. And so just consider that individual variation. But moving on, recreating in cougar country, we know that cougar attacks on people are extremely rare. Since the 1980s, there have been, the California Department of Fish and Wildlife has a landing page of human attacks on their website. So it's something that you guys can Google. And we acknowledge that these are not just statistics. They're people, and those impacted it should never be minimized. These statistics do demonstrate that cougar interactions are extremely rare when it comes to attacks. They're highly unusual, but they do necessitate that people be equipped with knowledge and tools they need to safely coexist in cougar country, which is what we're going to talk about here. And I think this slide, I'm so sorry, I think the statistic on this slide is a little outdated. I should have updated that before the presentation, so I apologize. Taking preventative measures when recreating to ensure your safety, the safety of your pets, and the cougars you share space with is something we're going to cover. So consider recreating and walking pets during daylight hours if you can. I understand busy schedules, and with extreme heat during the summer, it's not always possible. If you choose to walk your dog at night, we suggest bringing a flashlight for nighttime visibility and keeping your dog on a standard size leash that's 6 feet in length or less. And keeping them close beside you. Those extendable leashes, especially those longer than 6 feet in length, they remove control from humans and are not as effective at keeping dogs close to their people. Consider walking in groups and making noise. Do you have someone in your household that you can go on a walk with you? No? How about a neighbor? Maybe they'd like to join you on a walk. Announce your presence to wildlife in the area by either talking to someone that you're with, or what I like to do is I just like to clap my hands around blind turns. It feels a little bit less silly than talking to myself personally. This is going to give cougars and other wildlife the opportunity to move away from you. And you can also do this at home too. If you're letting your dog out to go potty at night, that's one great thing that you can do is kind of announce yourself to wildlife before entering the backyard. And we can talk more about that in the Q&A. But be aware of your surroundings. Avoid listening to your favorite podcast or music while outdoors. The use of earphones is going to impair your ability to hear wildlife that may be nearby. Being aware also means no scrolling on social media or texting on your phone. Be situationally aware when in cougar country. We recommend staying on marked trails. This will minimize stress on cougars and other wildlife and can reduce chances of human-wildlife conflict. This is especially important during spring and summer months when many wild animals may be tending to their young. Like human parents, wild animal parents are going to try to protect their babies from direct threats, and the best way to not appear threatening is just to not be in their space. You want to make sure you supervise children and ensure they stay close to adults. And when I say close to adults, I mean within arm's reach, you guys. Consider carrying an air horn or bear spray. I'm going to talk more about that, but an air horn is going to be used to deter a cougar from an area. Bear spray is another form of protection that can be effective if you know how to use it, and you always want to familiarize yourself with your tools before you go out so that in the event that there is an encounter, you are prepared to use them. And we're going to be doing a little bit more on that in just a few slides, but we do entire trainings on this topic, so we're going to kind of cover the basics. We also recommend you not approaching animal carcasses. If you see a dead animal while hiking, don't go near it as it is a possible source of food for wild predators and can indicate that a cougar or other predators are nearby. So it's best to move on to minimize disturbance to wildlife. Those are some local photos from the Santa Monica Mountains. We talked a little bit about dogs. I'll skip this for now. I think we talked about dogs pretty extensively for now. What to do if you encounter a cougar? Let's go over this, you guys. You don't want to run. You want to face the animal. You want to stay together and not turn your back on or crouch down. You want to pick up small children if you can. And if you're hiking with your pet, pick up your small dogs without turning away or crouching down for long periods. If your dog is too large to pick up, you want to bring them as close as possible and hold them firmly on a leash beside you. You want to give the cougar an escape route. Make yourself look as big as possible by extending your arms or opening up your jacket, and you want to speak in a firm, loud voice. Let's check out this video here.
Hey! Hey! Come on, go!
She was big, she was loud, and by that point, the interaction with the cougar was over. But if the cougar continues to show interest, you want to make noise using an air horn or otherwise your voice. You want to throw objects, and if an attack is imminent, you can go ahead and deploy bear spray. You want to fight back in the extremely rare case that a cougar does attack. So let's transition into some non-lethal tools that we just talked about. So people living in or adjacent to cougar habitat, along with recreationists, they often want to know about the major tools that they can use on the trail just to feel more informed and confident in getting out there. So I do want to spend a few minutes talking about that. And just think to yourself on a scale of 1 to 5, how confident are you in using non-lethal tools like air horns or bear spray should you encounter a cougar or other wildlife? You can kind of think about that, and then I'll try and engage you at the end if I remember. So what is bear spray? It really should be called wildlife spray. Bear spray will work against almost all mammals, including bear, cougar, bobcat, coyote, wolf, moose, elk, goat, sheep, deer. I could keep going. Yet the most likely scenario for needing bear spray is in the event that you actually encounter an aggressive domestic dog. When you use bear spray on wildlife, it will cause an immediate inflammatory and kind of irritating effects to the mouth, throat, nose, lungs, eyes, and ears of an animal that will cause it to retreat. The animal will likely kind of recover in a couple of hours. So just want to say that it's not the right tool for everybody. Flying with bear spray is also not permitted, so plan ahead and check the local rules and regulations. Some places don't allow bear spray. And if you do choose to carry bear spray and you're in a group, we do recommend that everybody carry their own can. Bear spray is a non-lethal tool that can be effective if you know how to use it properly. So before we talk on how to use it, we're going to talk about the importance of buying the right spray first. So first, make sure that it's bear spray and not bear repellent, as they're not the same thing. Note not all bear spray is the same, so make sure to look at the back of the canister and get familiar with the proper usage for that specific product that you're interested in purchasing. So let's see, you find bear spray that suits your needs. We can talk about kind of the most important aspects of owning bear spray, which is before hitting the trail, you want to practice. There are inert cans available that you can practice using. An inert can, it's kind of just water. You do not want to practice using a standard bear spray canister. You want to practice outdoors in a safe environment. get used to taking that safety off, getting it out of your holster. Again, bear spray is not effective if it's at the bottom of your backpack, right? And so we do entire trainings on this. Make sure it's accessible, know how to store it properly when not in use, not in the sun, not in the back of your trunk, in a safe place, not in direct sunlight. And again, read the can so that you make sure you stay within the heat and cold requirements of storing it. And again, only use when necessary to prevent conflict. It's only when you feel as though an attack is imminent is when you want to deploy bear spray. Again, we do entire trainings on this, so I'm just going to kind of go through these a little quicker. But air horns are one of my favorite tools. Loud noises can be startling and unpleasant to cougars, and so it could deter them from further interest. A lot of times, folks also can't scream loud, so they don't feel confident in being outdoors if they encounter a cougar because they feel like they can't yell loud enough. So I think air horns are a great tool for that. They're easy to handle, they're easy to find, they're affordable, and they're generally safe for everybody to use. There are different types. We'll talk about two major types: reusables, like the one on the left, and disposables, like the one on the right. So just like bear spray, we want to make sure that they're always accessible. Make sure to read the individual can. The air horn needs to be a deep, loud noise, not a high-pitched one. So a lot of people ask us about dog whistles. Those are not going to be effective. Practice using them before hitting the trail, especially with the reusable air horns. You want to make sure that latex is intact. And if you're allergic to latex, you can get in touch with us and we can try and figure out a different solution for you all. And again, only use when necessary. We don't want to hear air horns going off when we're trying to recreate in our beautiful wild spaces, right? So this is a few examples of us in the field with these things. They're extremely loud, and accidental releases and horseplay can damage hearing with the disposable air horn. So those are not recommended for children to carry. And so again, make sure that folks who are going to carry them are going to be doing so responsibly because you don't want that deployed near your ear. It's extremely loud. So feel free to reach out to us anytime if you have questions about tools and enclosures or anything like that we've talked about today. Reaching out to us, reporting parties can report sightings or incidents for statistical purposes only. Reporting allows us to know how to target our coexistence programs. We only share information with outside parties if the reporting party allows us to. And we have services and programs that are free for you guys that you may be able to take advantage of. So we highly recommend you reach out, and we respond to 100% of the inquiries that come in. So you will definitely get an answer for us. From us. We recommend you download our free ebook that we did we collaborated with the National Park Service, National Wildlife Foundation, National Wildlife Federation, and we have this free ebook. Those are also available at savelacougars.org, but it's about 80 questions in cougar coexistence, all the common questions, and you guys can download that for free on our website. We also have a Cougar Coexistence video series we'd love for you to check out that mirrors the content that is in the book. And with that, let's all do our part to exercise responsible pet owner practices in landscapes that we share with our local wildlife, like the ones that you see here on the screen. Thank you again to Los Padres ForestWatch for having me and for all of you attending this evening. I know it's late, it's rainy, but I also want to say we need everyone in conservation, y'all. Check out our website, check out Los Padres ForestWatch's work, follow us on social, sign up for our newsletters, and consider donating or volunteering to either organization. And we're here to help communities coexist with cougars. Feel free to reach out to us anytime. And with that, I will pass it back over to Carlo.
Wow, thank you so much, Korinna. That was a lot of information. So awesome just to be able to learn so much about coexistence with cougars. I think oftentimes, even if you're an experienced hiker, or recreationist, it's always good to brush up. So with that said, last chance to get your questions in. So how about we just get into the questions? So somebody had a question about the landscaping practice that you had mentioned, that it also does help with coexistence with rattlesnakes. But is that something that you could weigh in on, what you had mentioned about cutting some of the shrubs up in in height.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, thanks for your question, Larry. I can't really speak to the efficacy of reducing kind of having landscaping practices to reduce rattlesnake conflicts. I would defer more to the California Department of Fish and Wildlife's page on that, just because I don't want to speak out of turn, and they have the best available science and recommendations for rattlesnakes. I do know that we can come into contact with rattlesnakes. And so a lot of the hiking, they have a great page on hiking with rattlesnakes, but I'm not sure if they have information on landscaping practices. That's an awesome question, though.
Awesome. And then somebody asked if you could provide the address for so they could send you the information. So if you'd like, we can, I'll give you some time towards the end to put that in the chat, or, after the questions, if you want to put up the slide where that information is more available. Somebody was wondering who's the main agency that monitors the cougar populations in SoCal specifically?
Yeah, great question. So, in California, we're so lucky. There is so many organizations and institutions researching mountain lions in the state of California. In a second, I'll try and drop a link into the chat on all those different collaborations. But the California Department of Fish and Wildlife is the state agency responsible for managing the state's wildlife, and they have ongoing monitoring of the state's mountain lions. There is also university researchers. So, for example, UC Davis has been doing amazing work in the Santa Ana mountain range, studying the local mountain lion population there. There's also nonprofit organizations that are doing research up in the Bay Area as well. So there's a lot of different groups doing some really fantastic research on mountain lions. And it's called the SCP, the Scientific Collection Permit Holders. Landing page on the CDFW. You can actually go there and look at all the various projects going on.
Awesome. And then somebody wants to know, are the pepper pellet guns more effective than bear spray? I know you cover those two major non-lethal methods for deterring cougars.
Okay, I'm trying to understand the question. Are the pepper pellet guns more effective than bear spray? So I think what this individual may be referring to is there are different aversive conditioning that we can do for mountain lions. Some of the aversive conditioning, hazing is a form of aversive conditioning, and the state does and can haze mountain lions or black bears or other species with things like paintball guns. That is one. It kind of looks like a paintball gun, and they usually do that around bears and campsites and things like that. So I didn't cover pepper pellet guns in my presentation, so I can't really speak to that. I think that what we want to be careful of is that anytime that we're going to use something like bear spray, you can kind of think of that as a form of hard hazing. Soft hazing is something like being big, being loud, yelling, deploying your air horn. That's all stuff that everyday people can do. Obviously, you want to use bear spray in the very rare case that you feel as though a cougar is going to attack or a bear is going to attack, and you feel as though that attack is imminent. I wouldn't recommend the pepper pellet guns. I think that I would probably defer the legality of that to the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. But bear spray is something I really do like. It's a very controversial, non-lethal tool. A lot of people don't like to recommend it. I carry bear spray personally. I think that I love to go out hiking. I go on backpacking trips, and I encounter wildlife often. And I want to make sure that I'm going to get out okay, and that I'm not going to negatively impact the wildlife that I'm there to see, that I'm there to experience, that I'm there to be with. And so there's a YouTube video that sometimes we show during our trainings when we do the bear spray trainings of a runner on a trail, and he deploys bear spray on two cougars, and they get out of there. And so I think that it was a very effective tool. He only deployed it when he saw the mountain lions were kind of starting to kind of lunge towards him. So he deployed it at the right time, and it ended up being effective. He got out of there safely, and nothing bad happened to the mountain lions as well. So it was a win-win. And to answer Stefan's question, since it's related, Carlo, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
Stefan asked, if bear spray expires. Yeah, so bear spray does expire, which goes back to the very important point of reading your can. They do expire. And you want to make sure that if you deploy the can for any reason, you get a new one as well. So always pay attention to whether or not you deploy it and you want to replace it in that case. And obviously making sure that the expiration date, that you're well within your limits to go out and use that. And so that's going to be part of your pre-hiking checklist is to make sure, or if you use, some people have big properties, especially in Ventura County, and they like to carry bear spray when they're working on their ranch, which I don't think is a bad idea necessarily. They feel comfortable using it, they've trained to use it, and they're responsible while doing so. But yeah, definitely make sure it's expired before you ever head out. Good question.
Awesome. What about reports of cougars attacking mountain bikers? Somebody's concerned has concern about that.
Yeah, so there have been reports in the US of cougars, who have unfortunately attacked a person on mountain bikes. And so, I think that a lot of the same trail safety stuff that we talked about is relevant. When you think about, a deer moving quickly in an environment, and then you think about, a bike kind of moving quickly in an environment, it's a recreation activity where I absolutely would suggest someone to carry both an air horn and bear spray. Again, again, I'm a really big proponent of bear spray, but I do think that it's helpful, especially if folks are mountain biking, that they mountain bike with other people. I think that's great. Also, of course, trying to mountain bike during daytime hours where you have that visibility, you can see your surroundings more and be aware of your environment. And then, obviously having those non-lethal tools should you encounter a cougar, I think is one way to coexist.
So, somebody has a really fun question specifically about P22. I know that you and I had talked about it. Somebody wants to know what are the chances of a new mountain lion sort of like taking over that, P22's old old territory.
Yeah, thanks for your question, Tom. Mountain lion P22, for those who weren't aware, he was the mountain lion who lived in the Hollywood Hills, and in Griffith Park, and has recently passed on. And there, what are the chances? I don't have a number for you. I will say that mountain lions do move in ways where they follow old scent trails. We don't really know how it really happens, but there's probably going to be a dispersal of a mountain lion into the Griffith Park area sometime in the future. You know, I did know that there was some reports of a mountain lion who did get there, and whether or not that mountain lion stayed, is a different story. There hasn't been any recent detections of mountain lions in Griffith Park, but surely it is suitable habitat. There's plenty of deer and prey, and obviously a lack of mates. But yeah, I mean, it's totally possible that another mountain lion can make it to Griffith Park. Absolutely.
Um, and somebody is wondering if wearing like some sort of bell on themselves or a dog would help sort of like deterring mountain lions.
Yeah, thank you for your question, Rachel. I don't think that having a bell on your dog or on your person will help you. I don't carry a bear bell on my bear spray either. And I think that if in general, if you're walking with your dog, Rachel, I would just suggest, and you're walking alone with your dog, I would recommend you clap around turns that you can't see. So even if you're in a neighborhood that's adjacent or near cougar country, you may not think that it is cougar country, but in fact it is. And I think one way just to kind of keep yourself safe and keep your dog safe, even if you're walking in the daytime, it may seem silly, but like, clap your hands when going around a blind turn. I think that's going to be more effective than having something like a bell on an animal. It's and talking, of course, talking to your dog, which I talk to my animals all the time. If you feel comfortable talking to your dog, that's also going to announce yourself to wildlife that may be nearby.
Nice. And then what a question to end it. Have you personally had an encounter with a cougar?
Thank you for your question, Uno. I have never been on a trail and knowingly seen a wild cougar just while being out and about. But of course, through my work at Cougar Conservancy, I have had the opportunity to see wild lions, usually in precarious situations like the one of Scar when he fell through the enclosure and we were awaiting the California Department of Fish and Wildlife and UC Davis team to respond and immobilize that cat. So yes, I have. So the answer is no. I've not seen one on the trail, only in research and management situations.
All right, awesome. And thank you all, everybody, for those questions. So in a little bit, we'll leave you all with just um a few more things. So, the work that Cougar Conservancy is doing and Los Padres ForestWatch are both doing it's fantastic. If anybody wants to get involved in other ways to be able to help wildlife, Los Padres ForestWatch does have a it's called our Room to Roam survey in which we encourage people that are using our major transportation routes to let us know about any wildlife sighting and roadkill. All of this data is going to be very helpful for us to be able to engage with policymakers here in Santa Barbara to be able to pass wildlife-friendly legislation. We had some great success in Ventura County a few years ago, so we're looking to essentially replicate those successes here in Santa Barbara County as well. So I'll leave the QR code there.
I love
For
that
us.
poster, Carlo.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'll, if I'll leave the QR code here and if, during the recording, if you want to go back and just scan that, then, we'll send you all the presentation. And then finally, thank you all for joining us. Like Korinna was mentioning, you know, both Forest Watch and Cougar Conservancy are, community-driven nonprofit organizations. So, we encourage everybody to support us in any way possible. Whether that's, financial support, feel free to visit our respective websites to be able to learn about how you might do so. And also, just, sharing and engaging with our content, never disregard just how simply sharing our content, sending people our materials, sending people our YouTube materials, using it for your educational purposes, just engage with both our organizations in any way, shape, or form. With that being said, thank you all, everybody. Karina, thank you so much for having us. Did you want to say any last few words?
I mean, yeah, you're totally right. We can create all the coexistence resources we want, but if those resources aren't in people's hands and the community's hands, and that's where all of you come in, is we can create these resources, but we got to get them in front of city leaders and community members and recreationists and residents. So, no, thank you so much for having me today, Carlo. I really enjoyed being able to connect with the Forest Watch community, and I look forward to future collaborations.
All right. Awesome. Thank you all so much. Everybody, stay safe in the rains. Have a
Thank
wonderful rest of your
you.
night.